Welcome, everybody, to the Tipped and Stiff podcast with your host, Cade Alvarez and
Jarod Sturridge.
Today it's a guest episode today. We have a very lovely guest.
Hello.
Case.
Should I introduce myself? Or?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Case. I'm the studio's built-in production assistant. I show up an hour before everybody else does to make sure everything's plugged in, and I pick up everybody's like half-empty water bottles and energy drinks and stuff after everybody leaves. And I also do music. I just put out an EP. It's called Systemic Suburbanite on Spotify. You can stream CaseJackal. You should do that. And I went and I looked this up, and I'm the most influential non-binary person in Kenosha, Wisconsin, which isn't saying much. I'm breaking barriers just like I'm breaking the format of your guys' fucking podcast.
Hi.
Catch up, bitches, catch up.
He put the fucking links at the beginning of the show. Smart.
Yep.
Smart.
Very smart.
So welcome. Yeah. Obviously, you are more than a friend of a show. You help us a lot. You are very connected to the show. You are part of the show practically in the back scenes.
I'm glad to finally be on camera.
Yeah. Yes, it's good to have you here. We obviously this show wouldn't be, and especially in the beginning, would not have been in anything. We would have postponed video recording
another 6 months. Who knows? Like, until because you were here even before Bryce and Eric were a part of it, because we got this to the studio first. So you were kind of
Yeah. There was a lot of this stuff was set up to try to do like live. Sort of like how it would be done in a TV studio where you wire everything and then you record like a... So we had a setup to do that, and, a couple of us around here were trying to put together an experiment where, we could see if we could just get a consistent production with the equipment that we had here. And then eventually you guys ditched the whole TV aspect, which is great because there's not like a zillion cables running back and forth. And you guys can just all take the SD cards and go, and you can leave some of it up to the magic. Not all of it has to happen here.
Do you remember we had the shot from up there?
Yeah, that camera's still up there.
It is.
Yeah, it would be possible to just go back in OBS and record that camera.
Shot.
For old time's sake.
Yeah, and send it to you guys.
Just throw that in there one time in an episode.
That happened once where our friend Nick was running the switcher for the cameras back there, and he just randomly bumped it during the episode because he was busy sketching or whatever, not helping. And suddenly he switches it to... He left it on there for 5 or 6 seconds. It was just an above the shot. And we're just in the middle of a conversation.
But
it's aesthetic.
It's aesthetic.
It is an aesthetic. It's got that angle.
But we've been planning on having you for a long time. Well, we've been saying it, and we were like, we got all these people. Now that we've kind of gone down on how many guest episodes, we definitely expedited yours, because there is 5 bands in particular that are like, so I know that you said you were going to have us on, and it's just maybe we'll see. But
never said when.
Never said when. But it is, my favorite is I'll ask them to be on it, and then they'll give me a good time frame, and it's yeah, man, that's not how this works. But yeah,
it's hard.
They're hey, I'm gonna be in Kenosha.
That's how a lot of people want to do their publishing those. They kind of decide I got to be doing stuff around this time. So if you want to have me, people think that way. But not everything can line up like that.
No.
Yeah, the way to do it. Nepotism. So
it's great. Obviously you just released your EP, which is cool. We listened to it together.
Awesome.
It's very cool. It's very good to see.
It's awesome.
It's cool to just see, how you've been doing music for quite a long time.
Yeah, in various forms. I waver between different styles. I'm on my second Spotify name.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And
so are we.
Yay.
Yeah, that's how it goes. And I had an artist name even before the first Spotify name. I just never got to putting stuff on Spotify with it. That was back when I was in high school.
Right.
I had bands before that with dumb names that never put anything out, you know. So.
Yeah, the first band I was in was called The Hinges.
The Hinges.
Kind of like The Doors.
Like The Doors, like a cover band?
It's so stupid, isn't it?
Did you cover The Doors?
No, we never did. We didn't like The Doors. But this is
The Hinges.
The Hinges.
That was
yes.
a ragtag
We
group.
need a throwback tour for that.
I think I have old videos of it, but we did fine. What are you gonna do? We were in high school, but it's cool because when we've been doing our more of our stuff, and you've been present during like when we do recording and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's been interesting because almost every time, especially when Ethan's here, I know obviously he's had 3 episodes on this thing now. Especially when Ethan's here, you two always get into these crazy conversations. He gets really into it. Like the last one was when you were explaining the frequency of like why the spaces between each note, and then when the fifths and the sevenths actually are
like
created.
harmonic complexity, the harmonic series.
Yes.
That's my whole like religion. It's one of those things that I love. I don't know. It's easy for me to kind of not get caught up in a lot of like bullshit, like cult of personality bullshit, like fandoms standing different people or like or different like like I talk a lot about like new age spirituality and stuff like that, but always like with a grain of salt. And I think that's
probably the best way to do it.
Because there's real tangible things about, I guess, a tenet of New Age spirituality when it comes to people like John Coltrane and his circle, like where it's tangible. You can actually see you can hear and see the meaning behind it.
There's something about the TRAPPIST-1 system. I was just watching this thing.
What is that?
It's a star system. If you look up TRAPPIST-1 resonant orbits, there's this thing where it's like all of the stars, like planets and sub asteroids and like bodies that orbit it, all orbit in intervals that are like part of that harmonic series stuff that I was doing on guitar. And so like they actually put like notes to every time one of them goes around, and then beats to every time some of them line up, and it actually sounds musical.
That's weird.
What's it called?
TRAPPIST-1.
That is insane. Well,
that's so cool.
That's one of those true things of like, because
it's math. Like
it's
that's
math.
all. That's all that harmony is.
Right. What? Who's dickhead mustache science guy? Kind of really.
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Cuck. Throw that in there.
He has the whole thing where he's like, these things are really advanced, but they work within these simple systems.
Yeah.
Obviously, the mathematics and the science behind, the physics involved with understanding how like movement between planets, how gravity responds to them being certain masses is really advanced. But when you just break it down to the visuals, and when you put it to music, you go, it's all an
analogy for things you can find in harmony.
Right.
Like like is all an iteration of what waves do when they interact. If you look at any animal and you look at like kinetic wave interference patterns of like you drop sand on a plate and then play different frequencies at it, and it makes all those shapes. It's like animal fur patterns or like turtle shell patterns or like it's nature is just waves. It's just waves interacting in a lot of interesting ways.
You look at the back of a leaf, or like how a cactus grows, like the geometric patterns of that. Like, is that kind of on the same?
Well, when you open a tree and it's
or
like these little
phi
circles.
is like a mathematic constant, like the Fibonacci sequence and all that shit. Mm-hmm. The harmonic series is a really similar thing. It's just an innate. There's a thing called Zipf's law that in every language, there's like the distribution of words is always like there will be one that has 1%, and then the next one will be half of it. And then the next one will be a third of it, and then the next one will be a quarter of it, and like etc. And it's like, and you could actually, and this is like true across like I'm pretty sure like every language that we've studied it for, and a bunch of non-linguistic areas too, like the balance of like the organic substances in your cells that it likes to keep, you know, like so much water versus so much this versus so much that.
Right. It's all this very strange.
It's all approximating whole number ratios is the thing, which is what the harmonic series is.
It's very
whole notes.
Yeah,
it's
We even give it those kind of names. Like we even have to describe it.
Well,
in
whole
parts.
note's something different, but
I'm saying we have to describe it in parts like that,
Yeah.
like with harmonies.
we have too many words in music, and it's hard to talk about stuff.
But we've, and me and you have had conversations just, you know, how so the other day I had an interesting conversation with my coworkers about music, because I think this is one area that when we talk about music we miss in a sense, is why do certain things, certain sounds sound like they are meant to be that feeling in a sense. And I think the most interesting one is like percussive elements, because a lot of percussive elements, you know, in music don't really, they have a note to them, but technically not. Like they do and don't, right? And
Well, rhythm is harmony in and of itself.
right, and that's what I'm saying. Like, okay, and you'll get this. Like, if you're thinking of if you're like, I want to make kind of like a sad song, like you think of it as like a dun, dun, like a
No,
you don't think so?
I don't think of the rhythm first.
No, exactly, you don't. But if a song was just like this, bump, 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 like just like starting with that, you immediately go, this is slow. And things that are slow is like pain is slow. Feelings of sadness take a long time. Like
If you had like a really high piano like octave interval with like a bunch of reverb and you were just dun dun dun
right,
dun, then I could hear like, okay, something sad's about to happen.
right,
Yeah.
But
I can hear
however,
that.
but the more obvious one is if you're you go,
It's
this is going to be this is action. This is but there doesn't need to be any other elements. You just have the you know that there is something. You immediately put action to it. You immediately go to there's some things happening here, and it's interesting that the mind are like kind of our pattern recognition. The majority of happy songs are not slow, and the majority of sad songs are not fast. And
That's
we
true.
immediately go into that role. Like I had this professor who I think had like what are you laughing about?
You just looked funny when you sat up. You're like,
had what do you know what's called, the thing where people connect, you probably know, where they connect certain frequencies to color actually. Synesthesia. It's not just color. They describe it as just connecting one sense to another sense, and the easiest one we find is with hearing.
Right.
But this professor of mine had synesthesia without knowing it, but where he had it was connecting it from his ears to his mouth, his taste buds.
Taste.
Because the way that he explained music was always through the lens of food, and just expected people to know what he talked about, what he was talking about. And he would be like, he would be like, this bassoon tastes, it reminds me of dark chocolate. And it's like, that makes no fucking sense.
I've heard people describe chords as spicy before.
Right.
So like, you know,
there's
there's some of that. The thing about synesthesia that's interesting is like there's already so much of like we use other senses to describe senses so much.
Right.
You know, things will look warm, or things will, you know, like music can sound warm, or it can sound like shrill.
Right. The way that it's mixed.
Yeah, I think the thing about percussion, going back to that, is I actually think that is like kind of like one of the root, like the simplest form of like harmonic complexity. Like, because when you move out through the harmonic series, there's different like interactions of different things. Like, you know, you start getting into like chords and like different tones and the scales and stuff. But like that first, there being nothing, and then there being a sound, and then there being a gap of nothing, and then there being a sound. Like once you make that, like, what's interesting about that is you could slow that down to like, because that's where it becomes the analogy for planets. That's when you start to like, you know, move it into the other dimension. If you wake up every day at the same time at like 7 a.m. every morning and just clap, then you're technically clapping in rhythm with the earth, like spinning around the sun. Like that's, and you know, if you were to speed that up, so if you did that like 7 p.m., right? You know, you do that, now you're doing that an octave up from the frequency of the earth, right? So now this is how like everything evolved, right? Because like tides went up and down, and you know the world shifted in season. So like when things were forming life, when things were just like chemicals interacting and shit, and things flowing in and out of cells with osmosis, it was the moon pumping the tides, and it was the gravity and the warmth of the sun that was affecting things. And so everything in life sort of operates off of those frequencies,
the interval,
in higher upper octaves of those intervals, right? Because that's, you know, what influenced, you know, this fucking code serpent that like started making shit in the primordial ooze, right? But like it's that sort of thing where like if you have a ritual that you do every day, that's like your action, you're like time serpent singing in a frequency with, you know, the earth. That's why people like doing solstices and shit. Everybody just likes the consistency, you know? Right.
Well, a lot of, like most of human history, I feel, is a ritual of progress. And I feel like a ritual of change, a ritual of cycles. And when you think about like what makes a song happy or what makes a song sad, we were talking about just on the rhythm aspect.
Tension and release.
And the faster you go, that kind of like active sound.
Yeah.
What it reminds us of is like that animalistic kind of like ritualistic progress, drumming forward in society. And like when you're down or when you're introspective, like you're slower, you're taking at a pace that you need to take it at, or that the nature, the flow of the world is pushing you to take it at.
Well, even
it's even like that now.
Well, even think about how humans even had the ability to tell what time of the year it was. They went off of at what point the stars.
They would see. No, they would look at the sun, because the sun goes a certain point, and then it goes back a certain point. And so like a lot of old like stone monuments and stuff would be made to line up with the solstices. The Mayan pyramids actually, like during I think it's either an equinox or the solstice, the step patterns on the sides of the temples would look like a snake slithering down and up the stairs with the shadows of it would cast, and it would only be on those specific days.
But even like with the really how we split up our year, the whole fucking Leo, Capricorn,
with the zodiac stuff, like stop. What's so funny? You are fucked up.
It's just
right
funny.
now.
I don't know. You're making me laugh, man. Who cares?
What's funny?
It's just the Leo, Capricorn. What is that shit?
But like I've
some
like,
horse motherfucker with the arrows.
But like it's interesting how we looked at these constellations, and we're like, this is happening in where we are geographically. And then how, you know, the dominance of certain cultures, or at least the ones that controlled a lot, put a meaning. Like, it's interesting that, like, Leo is in the hottest month of the year, the hottest time of the year. And this is, like, lion, this very,
ferocious,
this literally orange creature that looks, you know, like, that has this mane that comes out like a sun, you know what I mean? Like it's interesting how
I know that Leo is associated with like solar symbolism and stuff.
Right.
I don't know. I feel like a lot of the symbolism is arbitrary. I've always wondered the same thing about the Chinese zodiac. They have apparent reasons why like the different animals are associated with shit, because it was originally like breaking up the times of day, and it would be like when certain animals would be active, or when you'd have to tend to certain animals. It would be like, you know, this is when you feed the pigs, this is when you tend to the oxes, this is when you have to look out for snakes coming out, this is when you have to, you know, look out for birds, you know, dragons. that kind of thing. Like they would.
When was a dragon involved?
Well, I don't know.
When the fuck did a dragon show up?
This is actually really interesting. This has always interested me, because so many cultures come up with dragons, right?
Yes.
Why?
Yeah, why?
They think they're cool
I think.
But, like, why
I
do
think
they all-
I have a few theories for this.
Okay.
because they found them.
One of them was like when we were like primates in trees. We probably fucking had fights with birds all the time. They were probably like our mortal enemies. We'd probably fuck birds up. And they would
Right.
probably fuck us up like constantly. And we were like smaller, like
Right.
huge birds. Like they like there's I can't remember who said it, but it was like birds have been around since they're the descendants of dinosaurs. They've
Which
been
is
around much
weird.
longer than we have had the potential to. Like they didn't evolve with us; they let us evolve. Like
They know
they
it's
would kill us if they had
They
the chance.
stepped out of the way.
because
Yeah.
we were little mammals. We
Well, they were
little
like,
rats and
you get the
rodents."
ground, we'll take the sky and the trees. but
Yeah.
we're gonna shit on you every so often.
But
Yeah.
it's not even that we were the ground. We were under the ground. Like we were like
Water.
boring. No. We were
Well-
animals that bored like tunnels and stuff like that. Like we
Yeah.
didn't even have that. We didn't even have that. To be able to go outside because there probably was big fucking birds.
I think like ancestral memory of like birds and like dinosaurs from like mammal, pre-human mammalian days. That or cultures finding dinosaur fossils and not knowing what the fuck, and then like telling stories about them that get telephoned down.
Right.
That's another
'cause
thing.
A dragon really doesn't make much sense when you think about it. And like it's just you're right. This giant lizard bird, like that doesn't make sense.
And it breathes
Every
fire.
bird-
Like, I don't know, guys.
everything that flies is either an insect, which is small, or has feathers. And why would it is weird. And then the fact that like somebody fucked up and probably was like they find these big ass bones underground and they're like, well, that must be the dragons and they must have scales. But then reptiles don't even have fucking
But how would
that
they?
doesn't make sense.
We don't even know that dinosaurs had
They're all
scales.
smoking opium. They don't know.
We're descendants of the Anunnaki, and we have a concept of them, right? Of like in our mind of like a prior civilization of dragon people or some shit.
Do you pay attention to the Graham Hancock shit at all?
Oh man, Graham Hancock. Yeah.
The
Oh, God.
Ancient civilization guy.
Yeah, he's like not quite ancient aliens. His whole thing is like, I just think that ancient Egyptians were on some crazier shit than we could ever like imagine.
Which is a valid take. I think.
I mean, I respect that. I think that's pretty cool. I did think they knew some shit. I think it's possible they knew some shit we didn't.
He
But
was.
I don't know how deep that goes.
Well, he.
I don't know about the whole golden age. Like electromagnetic energy will have glown around the equator like rings around Saturn's rings or whatever. I don't buy all that shit. I don't think we were like truly that golden age.
Right.
In younger dry ass Earth or whatever.
Well,
but-
his big thing was the fact that there was this Navy officer. It was right after they were doing treks to Antarctica, and he was like, you need to find maps of Antarctica, and we
Right.
need the true. We need to find the map of the true landmass of Antarctica because most of it's ice, right? And we didn't figure that out until we used like kind of like echolocation to
Right.
beam like see when things bounce back to find the true size of Antarctica. And somebody found some map in a school, like a university. And
that looks like it's got the bottom continent.
well, that they had the lines drawn, and the guy just kept going back. They're like, "What is this map based on?" And they're like, "Oh, it's based on this map." And then they would grab that map, and he would see it's like, how did they get this right? And they would kept going. They eventually got to such an old map that the map in which they found was put on the hide of a deer. That like the papyrus that they had of,
Right.
of Antarctica, they had that map that the papyrus was copied from was
Yeah.
assumed to have been copied from a map that was actually put on the hide of a deer that was lost in the burning of the Library of Alexandria. And
Here's something to think about.
I was giving you something to think about.
No, but something on the same wavelength as that. There is a kind of sweet potato in South America that is also prevalent in like Polynesian islands.
That is weird.
And they have the same word for it.
Well, that's what he's saying. He's talking about how it doesn't make sense that we would have figured out like the longitude and latitude of Antarctica.
Like there have probably been people on North America before.
Right.
Yeah.
That there was what did
Was
you
it
find?
Cherokee origin? Like who is supposed to have made the map?
Who, you know what?
I'm trying
Let's
to
just read
find
the
a picture.
article.
Well, give me something to search. I'm trying to.
Let's do
Wait, it was a map of where
map of
specifically?
Antarctica.
Of Antarctica. I don't think the Cherokee would have.
That wouldn't make.
I just typed oldest map of Antarctica. Okay, map of Antarctica.
You might want to throw Graham Hancock in there.
Graham Hancock. Yeah, throw him. You got to throw him.
I've
in.
heard that was bullshit. Like it's because there's a map where at the bottom of South America like looks like it stretches or whatever, and it looks like that. And that was just a way to preserve space because they didn't have enough space on the map to draw the rest of South America. That's what I've known that. Like I
just
like
ran
the
it out.
beginning
So
of
funny.
that. The beginning of what you were saying sounded like, oh, that sounds like that one map, and like I've heard a totally different. Like,
I want the only thing that I think he got right was just the fact that that the way that we have our ice age, where we assume that our ice age happened, is kind of wrong. Like the way that
the Younger Dryas shit.
Yeah, the stuff when
that's-
it melted.
I think that's possible. I think the flood
meteorite.
shit happened. That's
Right.
one thing that I think. I don't know about the meteorite, but the flood shit happened.
No, that he's saying that the reason that happened is because he feels that he's not saying like a big astronomical meteorite hit. He's saying that something must have hit that heated up because they're taking ice samples in Iceland and they're finding platinum in the ice samples. And he's like, of course, over time...
Meaning they probably vaporized a bunch of metal.
Right. And he feels like if, over time, obviously meteorite brings metal here and stuff like that. He's like, they're finding platinum.
And they think the crater is somewhere in the Gulf of Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
No, that was for the dinosaurs. This
Oh.
one's
Wasn't that one for the floods? Because he does talk about how there's correlations between the flood stories that have to do with the meteorite dropping.
Yes, because if you look at Native American stories...
Yeah.
If you look
Which
at
ones? What tribes?
all of them.
Which ones?
No. From South America to North America, really old, like Mayan.
No, I hate when people do this. What? Native Americans aren't one culture.
I know,
But name one.
Well, not just Native. I mean, like Mayans and Aztecas and stuff like that.
Okay.
Too. A lot of their myths had a flood in it, and they mention a comet in them. But if you even go to like.
I don't think it's a meteor. I think it could have happened with the atmosphere. Okay, so when the sun hits ice, it melts it. If the atmosphere is warm enough that it's not just going to refreeze the ice, you'll get glacial lakes that form. Eventually, so water is actually, I think, more dense than ice is, which means it weighs more.
That's why ice floats in water.
Yeah, so if ice has a lot of water on top of it, it's easier for the ice to crack. If the ice cracks and like half of the fucking continent is ice, then a bunch of water is just gonna in like huge waves for like years at a time probably.
Right.
And my alternate explanation as to why there's so much shit in the air that like would have been I think humans started burning stuff.
At what point?
12,000 years ago, we've had writing for 6,000.
See, now that's interesting because
That's
Graham
when
Hancock
it
talks
ends.
about when that
12,000 years ago is when the Ice Age ends.
And
yeah.
what's interesting as well is that in Plato's writings, he mentions fucking Atlantis, and he says that Atlantis disappeared 9,000 years ago, which would have
been 12,000.
Which is on par with when the flood would have happened.
There's a place called Doggerland that I write of as like a fictional place in my stories, and it was actually a real place. There's a place called Dogger Bank. It's the water between England and Denmark and Scandinavia, and it's where like the fucking half Neanderthal, half humans before they became Germanic people used to live.
Right.
Before everything flooded.
The Anunnaki.
No. Do you think the Neanderthals were Anunnaki?
No.
Do you think that's really it?
But do you ever wonder what they like? The Anunnaki.
They
is
really like
definitely
feathers.
What they were talking
Jaden
about
Smith thinks
when
they are.
when it comes to the Nephilim. It's really interesting in the old.
the fallen angels.
Well, because in the Old Testament they talk about when they're talking about Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, they talk about the only thing that was on the planet And it's a really weird passage. They talk about there's land, and there's the Nephilim. And in Numbers, they even say how tall the Nephilim are, which is they're about like 10 to 11 feet. And it is interesting.
It's about how tall the mushroom pillars were before anything else was alive on that broke down the rocks, like dirt.
And it's strange how they describe, like, in so many cultures, like there's all that stuff, like with the Native American stories of the giants that used to live in North America and stuff like that, and how, it's just like, it's interesting culturally how whispers and old stories, because so many things were only taught orally at one point, and that's why we have such a hard time really getting to the bottom of these things. The same thing with like why Christmas we have a tree with presents under it, and for the most part it's because in lots of Scandinavian countries, in pines, where pines would grow, underneath pines, when they would be like a little bit of melt where it was really moist, you would have the fucking mushroom from Mario, the goddamn white
Anita muscaria mushrooms.
Anita muscaria.
Okay.
And how the Anita muscaria.
Those are apparently a really shitty trip.
I've
heard they're like horrifying ones.
Like it's just not fun apparently. Like psilocybin is fun, but Anita muscaria just makes you go like whoa.
But the things that eat, but do you know what eats Anita muscaria underneath pines?
Santa?
What, flies?
Reindeer.
Reindeer, okay.
Hey, but if you get fucked up on mushrooms, you see the magic elves. So it kind of makes sense that somebody somewhere with Coca-Cola would put all those things
elves
together.
On mushrooms?
The clockwork.
I thought that was DMT.
Well, you got to take enough mushrooms.
I don't know.
You have to take a psychonaut amount of mushrooms to see the.
I thought that was like DMT breakthrough dose shit. I thought that was like top,
That's
clip in at zero kind of.
Have you ever heard about Eleusis? Did you ever read about Eleusis? Eleusis. This is a crazy one. I love this one. So this is
has to do with America too.
How long have we been going?
Dude, who gives
probably 20 minutes?
We're doing
20 what?
35.
35.
This
Damn.
is a great episode.
Yeah,
listen.
it's fun.
I didn't talk about my EP at all.
Dude, because we're talking about. I mean, your EP's awesome. We're on some fucking next shit.
Yeah.
But Eleusis. So Eleusis was technically not a town in Greece. It's in Greece now, but it's technically when they were more Hellenic, I think, because Hellenia was like, it's the whole thing.
That's just the Greek word for Greek, isn't it?
Right. It's something like that. Before the Greeks, there was was it Macedonians? I think it was the Macedonians. Right.
Do not ask me.
But that's when it was created. And then whatever, Greek and the fucking philosophers like Plato and stuff. Plato would write about how he had to take his journey to Eleusis and to meet an oracle who would give them some sort of answers that they were looking for.
Okay.
And they would have to drink a potion in order to meet this goddess in Eleusis.
It's kombucha.
And
I'm sorry.
And
blur that out.
Plato talked about how he was preparing for his journey, that he had to like mentally prepare for months to almost years to go there. And a lot of philosophers would go there. And this guy wrote this crazy book breaking down how they figured out like what they were actually putting in the potion. And obviously it was heavy amounts of hallucinogenics. And
was it Soma? Was it
it's the derivative? Yes.
Ephedra, cannabis.
Yes, it's the
poppy and fucking like everything gets you flying. Yeah.
It's that they would do that stuff. And what's interesting is that there is a reference to like the next version of that potion like in the Bible at some point. And it's interesting how Plato wrote about this, this person that we knew existed writing about taking this journey, but what's nuts about this is that the goddess that they would call her Eleusis.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is that her
That was Dionysus.
No, it's because it was in I think the place is Elysium that they would actually go.
Oh, Elysium. Okay.
Elysium, and the goddess that they would meet is Eleusis. And
okay.
Taking just from inferring from what they're describing, they're talking about reaching ego death.
Yeah.
Going and taking this potion, and that they're preparing to not be afraid of dying anymore. And what's
like the
interesting-
cremation of care shit that the
Yes.
Illuminati motherfuckers do.
So with
Yeah.
Eleusis, what's interesting, the way that she is depicted,
yeah.
she then became the goddess of Libertas, which is Roman, which the goddess of Libertas
Interesting.
is the goddess of freedom,
Yeah.
which is the Statue of Liberty. And it's very interesting how
It was originally like freedom of your own mental confines.
right.
Yeah,
And
okay.
and the French build us the statue to go put in one of the biggest cities in the world, right?
So you think everybody should trip?
No. I'm just saying that
And look at the Statue
there's
of Liberty.
it's so interesting that
Stand with
this story across pretty much so many
You think only the elite should trip?
No, I'm saying that throughout history, it's interesting how this journey of divinity must take place, in the sense of that there must be some sort of preparation, and there must be some sort of pilgrimage,
Yeah.
and then there must be some sort of ritual to take place.
Because the substance is always cheating. That's the thing.
Right.
There's ways where you can, do transcendental meditation, sit down hours and hours and hours, devote all that time. But if you got the resources to get, so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so to pick all the fucking shit you need and dry it and, prepare all that shit, then yeah, you can select the, finest of your friends that you think are the most intellectual, and you can take them into a dark thing and you can get fucked up and you can claim that you're enlightened.
Right.
So that's the
But
thing
you
that I
might
think
really
culture
not
is
be.
built around, trying to make that significant in some way.
Very
but-
significant.
But
We
it
make
doesn't seem to mean anything unless it's like transferred into the world
The
that we're
ritual
building.
is what matters,
It's
and the
just the
significance
ritual.
is what matters. I think.
Well, I'm wondering how
I would
it's
love to talk
significant.
about the pineal gland. Do you know about that
Yeah.
whole shit? Because there's a whole lot of things that people say about it, and there's some of it that's true, and there's some of it that's just bullshit.
Well, is yours calcified? Because mine is calcified.
I think mine's pretty
Completely.
calcified.
I'm
I've been
smoking.
doing-
I'm
I've-
smoking on a fucking Bono vape right now. I think.
Yeah.
I think I'm
gas
pretty
station
done.
vapes.
I was
You're
prepared to be
calcium.
like, oh, you guys vape on here, and then just like pull out a fucking like Delta 8 joint and just like spark it halfway through the thing. I didn't have time to walk over there and get it though. But like what I think is really interesting, and what I think is also like similar to that is like, there's tryptophan in our diet is
Right.
is a component of serotonin and melatonin and other things that our pineal gland responds to. It used to be wired straight to the visual cortex and to a photoreceptor in the forehead of like amphibians that would tell them whether or not they were in sunlight. So it would make them feel like, okay, I can sit here and be warm and be safe. And if there wasn't any sunlight, it's like, okay, it's no longer sun time. And this info would be straight to their like, pituitary gland, their visual cortex, brighter than what their vision is. And we don't have a third eye anymore. But we have the gland that connected to, and it's still connected to our visual cortex. And it's got cells on it that are reminiscent of corneal cells, meaning that they send visual information.
Right.
So
Right.
if you have the right amount of chemicals, a certain amount of like, if you breathe really rhythmically and really deeply, you can methylate compounds in your lungs. You can send methylated tryptophan up and down. I'm totally like vastly oversimplifying here, but you can methylate a tryptamine compound into DMT, send it up into your fucking brain juice, and if you're susceptible enough to it, you can see all them lights and all them colors and shit. You can also do like like a kinetic sand plate thing with vibration. If you get a bunch of people in a room and everybody stands around in a circle and focuses on one thing and like just says different intervals, if you get 7 people, for sure you just zone out of Euclidean space. You see nothing but the Christmas tree.
What do you mean by
The
that?
pine-
You
the
gotta
pine- it's-
explain that.
They call
What
it
do
a
you mean you
pineal
don't see
gland.
nothing
They call
but the
it
Christmas
they call it a
tree?
pineal gland because it's shaped like a pine cone. It's shaped like a pine tree. It's got that Fibonacci kind of like
Right.
growth thing to it.
Well, what are the
and so when it
intervals
looks
you
like if you look up the 1,000-petal lotus and put up a picture, you'll see a bunch of them. They look the same. And put one up here. It's this thing that everybody sees when they take DMT. Enough people see it when they take
Right.
acid. Enough people see it when they take shrooms. It's the shape of that gland sending light data, confused light data to your visual cortex. And it is something that's endogenous. This thing.
Dude,
Yeah.
that's every...
That's it.
This is what every
That's God.
hippie thing does.
So we call that God, and then we make a whole like ritual around seeing that.
Right.
So,
And
but,
so
like,
we
is it
we,
God?
that thing.
we psych ourselves up and get our brain chemistry going. So like a certain time every week or
Hey.
every whatever, we can be like, yeah, we're gonna go see the fucking shape. We're gonna do it.
It's
Right.
in stock. You can buy
You can
it.
buy
You don't need
the
this.
1,000 petal lotus. It's in your brain too, and I think that calcifying shit. I think that's sort of true, but I don't think it affects too much.
Could it be an analogy for like just the shitty diet and lifestyle
Yes.
that Western civilization kind of cultivates?
Yeah, I think it's symbolic of that. Like,
Yeah.
because shit gets caught in your brain, like amyloid proteins and shit like that. Like
lead.
maybe
that
microplastics.
too. Yeah, in the
I
Midwest
imagine.
around here, some
Lead.
cities you got to worry about lead.
And you will see the 1,000 petal lotus if you take enough lead.
Yeah. Or no, you'll see the oh
Screaming.
fuck, the lattice cobweb tunnel spiral, the form constant of death. It's the things you see when you die.
Really?
Yeah, you see
I've
a
never
light.
died before, so I've never seen them.
I have a couple times.
Have you? Interesting. Have you ever done DMT?
No. I've had the chance to have one form of DMT at a fucking furry convention, and it just didn't line up.
See, I'm I'm happy
Didn't seem
that
like the
that's
right.
where they do
It didn't seem like the right situation setting. I would have rather done it in like dark in the theater and like the quiet. I've done other stuff at a furry convention. I've done acid at a furry convention.
Well, I mean,
was fun.
that lines
I
up.
went to a rave. Yeah.
That lines up. See, that's the thing about the problem. Is, like, I would love to do DMT one day, but the problem is that I want somebody who looks like a stay-at-home mom want to give it to me. Like, I want them to be like,
You need a good trip shaman. That's been like my whole thing. Whenever like I'll have friends over and I've shamaned for them before. I won't
don't-
give them shit. Like they'll be like, oh, I got some shit. Like, but you know.
I don't
make
want.
sure people don't.
I don't want some guy who doesn't really. I don't want somebody that I'm gonna see at like.
You don't want a drug
at
dealer
the
to
register
treat you.
at a Dollar Tree.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I want somebody who maybe has
Legit.
at least has a
Yeah.
degree. This
A
is probably
degree.
the only thing that I would want. Like for some reason they went, that's my master's, and they could go. It's a master's in marketing, and I go, you know, that's better than nothing. I would be like, I for whatever reason,
So
I
you would
feel
not
more-
be if the shaman was you, like would you not let yourself?
Fuck no, dude. If I came
I think
up, dude, if I
that's,
came up to
that's
you and
actually
offered-
really important. Is like
Yeah.
being in the right place in your life to make sure you can go into it.
Because you got
I
to take care of
gave
yourself
you
too
that.
with it too. I must be insane.
If you accept
Yeah, you'll lose your fucking mind.
from me,
Yeah.
I would go, it's right back here, and then there would be an intervention waiting for you.
Would you take DMT from the QAnon shaman?
That does not seem like a reliable source for any kind of drugs.
Nah, dude, that's
I mean, he has a degree. He's in the CIA. I think he's got a pretty nice degree there.
We accuse every person that's done anything that has affected this culture in any significant way.
Anyone
being in
who's
the
been on the
CIA.
news is in the CIA. That's my
prerogative.
prerogative.
It's fresh. It's what the kids do these days.
It is
Yeah.
what the kids
Blame the
do.
CIA.
Blame.
You hear, what is it, Ukraine's about to get invaded by Russia?
Yeah,
we get an
they just
article? We gotta
revolted.
talk
People are
about
saying
that.
if we talk, if people are saying if we talk about that at all, then like, oh, you're just doing the work of the CIA and U.S. imperialism. It's like,
You're
no,
damn
come
right.
on,
Oh.
they're about to fucking roll tanks into a country.
Yeah.
Like we can't comment about this.
Yeah, that's not how this
Well,
works.
yeah, Ukraine got their entire government to step down, and now Russia is stepping in, possibly.
What source do you want?
Fox News.
Yeah, Fox.
Yeah, something credible.
Something credible.
God.
Please, no, I don't know.
This is Miller High Life, the champagne of beers.
Not as good as Supper Club, but it's
It'll do the job.
Here we go.
Let's
Here's
get an
something
article
for you.
You actually did pull up a Fox News article.
Oh my God. Oh no.
Oh my God.
Heightened
Jesus.
preparedness.
So, all right, several thousand.
Fuck you.
Jesus
Just
Fox.
go
Christ.
somewhere else. Get out of this.
Wait, hold on.
Fox News is
Trapped
in a little
in
hole
Papa
right
Pell.
now.
I did.
Oh,
I
whoa.
allowed it. Oh, I guess. Okay. Wow. Okay. Well,
Just hit all the X's.
do we?
So the world's ending.
Go
Yeah.
to a different one, because I want to.
This is how you get your news. You have to go through all these paywalls, and you like can't
Right.
you can't like block ads and shit. It's so hard to actually see what's going on in
Dude,
the world,
New York-
not through Twitter.
I just
headlines.
talked to I was at my mom's
true.
house. My grandma lives there with my family, and she's old. She's like 90, and she made
you're
this.
90.
She made this deal about how she like a few months ago canceled her subscription to the Kenosha News for the first time in like 50 years.
Right.
And she was like, she only reads like the Week magazine. She has like an iPad, but she looking at how she talks about issues, like she only gets one, maybe two, like somewhat reliable sources of information.
Well,
and it's like maybe watching Rachel Maddow and reading the Week.
Thank you.
But like
We're undergoing
could
the
she
Tower
ever
of Babel
find
right
out?
now.
No, truly, and like I'm seeing it in a 90-year-old,
Yeah.
and I'm seeing it in like my dad.
Click the puzzle piece.
Yeah, it's like it's not like a generational like we're all just getting sucked into this fucking vortex.
Click on,
We're all
pause
in
on
the
all sides.
we're all in the necklace of the
Okay.
Leviathan.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
And then refresh it.
Oh my god, I hate this shit.
Refresh. All right. If war is coming, the West must decide how far it will go to defend Ukraine against Russia. Okay, so this is. I want to talk about this in a interesting light. So this is the thing. If people want to understand, because sometimes we do this, we'll talk about some crazy shit, and all of a sudden we'll have a pause where I try to drop some actual information on the world. So this is your weekly news update. So yeah, the Ukraine and Russia is a big deal, and the reason why it's a big deal is because the world is getting a little antsy, if I could put a word to it. China, and listen, this is the problem, because whenever we talk about the world getting antsy, most people don't start with American conflicts, and I will do the same, and get into that. But there's really like 4 really big conflicts that are happening simultaneously right now that are a problem. First of all, China really wants to invade Taiwan and control more of the South China Sea.
Yep.
And that's a huge one. We've been doing, for years now, we've been doing these little skirmishes where we send our boats into what they say is their territory and what we say is international territory. It's a whole thing. China and India really don't like each other. They fight over their borders all the time. About every year there's something where happens where about 30 people get killed because of some skirmish on the border.
Right.
The other big one, always a classic, I would say, is Israel and Palestine. Pretty much Saudi Arabia and Israel versus the rest of the Middle East. And that's where a lot of American interest comes into play. And when it comes to Russia is a country that used to be a world superpower, right? And what's happening now is that their population isn't rising very quickly. They didn't get on the whole tech bubble thing. They really haven't invested their money. They've invested their money in old infrastructure. They've stuck to the classics like oil. That's their big ticket that they look at. And what's happening is that Vladimir Putin kind of has an old ideology of, if you want power in the world, then you must have more land that can have populous cities in it. And what's happening is that we're kind of fighting this old Cold War-esque battle of this communism versus capitalism, even though that's not really what it is at all.
He wants to like revive the Soviet Union, but
yes.
under his own terms.
Yes,
Yeah.
and Ukraine is on the hit list and has been on the hit list for quite a while now. There's an amazing documentary online called Winter on Fire about Ukraine trying to join the EU.
Right.
And the president that they elect not doing it and trying to actually make their ties to Russia stronger. And there is like 4-6 months of like a revolution and thousands of people died.
No, and millions of people just marching, like literally like frontline people.
It is an insane documentary. And we're now in that again, where it's not that Ukraine wants to be in the EU, it's the fact that a lot of countries aren't that in Europe, most of them are, but not all of them are in NATO. And NATO is the big thing where people accuse it being the CIA thing, because NATO is it's
an agreement between a bunch of ex-Soviet countries to make sure Russia doesn't invade them again, and it's something that we pay into and other of our allies pay into. Right,
and it's pretty much if a country declares war on, let's say, Afghanistan, for example, or let's say, Iraq, Iran, then you as a country have to promise to send X amount of things and resources to fight in that war. And the countries that aren't in it are a decent amount of Eastern Bloc countries, like a lot of Yugoslavia isn't, because the breaking of Yugoslavia didn't look good for their admission into NATO. And also Scandinavia, Finland, Norway are not in NATO. I don't think Sweden is either. And Ukraine isn't. So the way that Russia looks at it is that instead of Russia playing the rules of what pretty much America wants them to be played, they want to go, I want to control Eastern Europe again. I want it to be where it's the Western world versus the Eastern Bloc. And on the other side of the world, it's the Western world versus the Eastern world, right?
Right.
Asia. And pretty much Russia is... There's this thing where pretty much America in some way has kind of challenged Russia into telling them, hey, if you do something, we're going to sanction you. And Putin goes, if I don't do something, whether it's true or not, then I'm going to look like a bitch in front of my people. And it's stupid. It's a lot of this weird, not helpful.
History has shown that this is what it boils down to, though.
Right. If I don't whip my dick out and show how big it is to the world, everyone's going to think I have a small dick. I can't let that happen.
Who's the Greek? There was like a Greek emperor and his wife that got drunk one night, and they decided to burn down the capital of Persia. Like the next morning, and they just like, yeah, sure, fuck it. And they just like the next morning, the army went and they did it, and they didn't think much about it beyond that. It was just like a thought that they had, and they just went and fucking, like, there's no, like, who gives a fuck? They were like a huge rich empire.
Right.
Some other like nomads have like their like little, prissy fucking thing they got going on. Like, nah, fuck it. They just thought about that over beers one night.
Right. And with the thing with Russia is the problem is that if Russia does make moves on Ukraine, the West will respond, because the majority of the Western world would go, well, if we let Russia gain any power, like they influence our elections and blah, 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 we're gonna be in the dark ages again. And that's the mentality.
We're already in the fucking dark ages. There's no way to avoid being in the dark ages.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know what happens if Russia just decides to roll
the
forces into Ukraine. Like, they've already taken the Crimean Peninsula from Ukraine.
Mm-hmm. That's what initially started their sanctions, and that was like in 2012. Obama did that.
But it's also like, at this point, we talk about like, what can we do?
We respond with, then we also roll the tanks.
Yeah. But I guess that's it. And I guess this is one of those things where it's like, I hate imperialism in general. I wish that we didn't have to fight over a fucking country that wasn't either ours or Russia's.
Right.
But we just pulled out of fucking Afghanistan, and we might end up occupying another country.
Well, because
just as a proxy war with Russia.
Well, don't you understand that the economy is doing kind of bad right now, Case? We need
a war.
We need something to hotwire that thing. Because here's the
thing. COVID
didn't
do enough, I guess.
COVID is boring now, and it's not going to win anyone an election. But
COVID's not helping because it keeps killing like fucking like minimal income workers. It keeps like killing all the fucking essential workers. Line cooks. I think line cooks and like minimum wage like cooks and fry cooks and shit in restaurants were like the biggest like group of employment that of like deaths from COVID, more so than even healthcare workers. So it's like COVID literally like it's not like people are going back. It's like no, they're fucking dying.
To be fair, have you met any line cookers?
Oh yeah, I know quite a few.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
that's part of my argument that maybe that's why that statistic is there.
Some of them.
Wow, that's crazy. I thought line cooks had the highest risk of dying during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Plus other. That's crazy. You would
not
think
bullshitting.
You would think it'd be on top of like all the drugs that exist within a kitchen in every restaurant. Have you been in a restaurant environment, like worked in a restaurant environment before?
I haven't worked in one, no.
They're crazy. They're
crazy.
They're stressful environments. There is, like, listen, dude. If anyone out there, if they think that their food has never touched the floor of a kitchen and then got back on their plate, they're wrong. That is absolutely
I'm sure that every fucking like small restaurant, even like chain restaurants, they probably let a lot of shit.
Dude, the Chili's
slide.
is fucking people up.
OSHA violations. I had a friend that worked for Chipotle, and they used to like, you know, sing the praises of Chipotle, like, oh yeah, they have all natural, like locally sourced ingredients and none of that GMO shit. And I was like, okay. And then like 2-3 weeks in, they were like they don't have like any of these fucking shit. Like nothing's like up to standard. They're having us like fucking stand on the like oiled grill to like clean this fucking other shit. And it's like, yeah, I guess that's what happens when like, you know, that's kind of the cost of business, you know, offset shit is like they can't afford all those other measures if they're, you know,
right,
avoiding the GMOs, whatever the fuck that means.
Dude, like, have you ever noticed? Like, you ever notice?
Okay, thank you.
Oh, we're at 5. Okay.
Oh, really?
Well,
damn.
This was a fun episode. This was a good
bad.
time. Listen, before we
Let's talk about the music before we head it out.
No, we're
Yeah.
not gonna wrap it up.
Oh, okay, good.
I mean, we have.
That sounded like you were
listen,
about to.
I'm your time limit,
We
and
just-
like I'm fine staying longer if you guys roll over an hour. So
Yeah,
We-
no, we'll be over.
We'll
but
be
it's
good.
Okay.
We'll be
Yeah.
good on the cameras and everything.
We were given a gift.
We'll have a little time.
Can we
Cool.
open our gifts?
that's right.
Do we have permission? to
Oh,
open
yeah.
our gift? We
Yeah,
have a
go
gift
ahead.
to open.
It's a gift from. Is it from?
It's just from me.
A lady caller. It's a Squidward. Did you?
All
wait.
right, we have 5 minutes, so
I'm just. Okay. All right. Bryce gave this to Jared and I. Oh, this is very funny. Look at this. Live firearms on the podcast.
Oh man,
Yes.
I don't know.
That is hilarious.
I got one too.
Oh! Look at it.
I've been waiting for an opportunity. That's
Stash
crazy.
that gun.
This is. Where is it? How do I do this?
You gotta pull it out.
Is it like? Does it have like snap things in, or is it like a
No,
laser
they're
gun?
not. This is
Nerfies.
something that if
Oh,
we
it's a Nerf?
found in a Walgreens, we could probably walk out without the box. Like the way that they didn't even do like the
Oh my
real
God.
straps on them. They did just the little gel ones. This is great, Jared. Say thank you.
I did
What do
say thank you. I love it.
What do you say?
You're
Give
welcome.
Give me the
blue
gun.
one.
Give me the gun, Dad.
Have your Alex Baldwin moment on the podcast.
He's going to jail.
Is he?
Yeah.
Do you
he
think?
got a Hulu documentary first, though.
He's gonna get a Hulu doc, and then he.
Yeah, it's already
What makes
it's
you think
already
he's going to
out.
jail?
It's already out.
There you go.
Make
This
it
is
count.
one.
Oh,
Fuck it.
wrong
Oh,
way,
that's a-
dummy.
What do you mean? That was
Just
embarrassing.
gonna stand here with it locked
It's
and
on
loaded.
camera.
The numbers, Mason. What did they mean? I missed.
Oh my God.
Dude, that fucking went. That was cool. Well, all right.
I need one.
Case,
Not you. Well,
Case-
let's get into this.
tell us why what you have going on, why you're here.
Yeah.
To-
Yeah.
Do it.
So-
Do the plug.
Yeah, I just put out an EP called Systemic Suburbanite. It is on Spotify. My name is CaseJackal. You can also find it at case.dog,
We'll link it.
which is my short link. The link will be somewhere. It's crazy. It's got like weird scale, crunchy beats. It's got vaudevillian hooks, rapping and screaming and shit like that.
Vaudevillian hooks.
Vaudevillian.
Vaudevillian.
I'm doing a lot of da 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 da, you know, that kind of shit. It's in character as a vaudevillian plague doctor.
Very cool.
So it's
Yeah,
really cool.
I
You
have,
videos out.
Yeah, I've had some videos coming out since I posted a couple last year. I have another 2 singles. One of the videos probably will have dropped by the time this drops, and then the next one, the last one, for Sweeter, which is going to be the last single, is going to be dropping in the middle of February.
Sweeter.
So,
I like that one.
so I'm also CaseJackal, basically everywhere on YouTube. You can subscribe to me. Twitter, you can follow me. All that.
What-
Yeah, it's all my stuff. There it is. Yeah, you can buy my stuff directly on Bandcamp too. Then I get all that money, and not just like a cent every 2,000 plays or whatever. the fuck.
Right. That is
Yeah.
bullshit.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, you heard it here first, folks.
Thanks for having me, by the way.
thank you for
Thanks
coming
for letting
on.
me plug all
It's
this
been
stuff.
great.
This was very cool. This was a very fun podcast.
I would love to do this again sometime.
Absolutely.
We will. We got to get into the other half of the things we were going to talk about.
Oh my
Like,
God.
There's like a whole depth.
So
Too fast.
thank you for everyone for tuning in. This has been the Tipped and Sip podcast. Please find us everywhere on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook and YouTube. Subscribe, follow, like, do you're told. That's what I have to say. This episode is Venmo $10 to the Tipton Stip podcast.
Did you get any from last time?
We didn't send them to a real Venmo.
Shit.
We got to make the Venmo before
Someone
it
else
drops.
do that, or like a PayPal.me or something.
PayPal.
A coffee.
Right. Venmo.
Then you can say this production is supported by viewers like you.
Like you,
Yeah.
right. We also like to thank www.ikenosha.com for supporting the podcast, helping us with the studio pace, also Case as well
Yeah.
for helping us with that. Now we have a face to you. So
yeah.
we'd also like to thank That's a Beauty Productions for helping us with all the editing and producing as well. Very nice. And what? Oh, I heard him breathe.
God,
I
so
thought I heard you
paranoid.
breathe. Listen, I'm sorry.
Also, Google the Kenosha Theater. Check this place out.
Yeah.
Come on, we gotta
You
talk
can find
about
donations
that for,
and all that.
Give it a little time. I mean, give us a rundown.
about the
right?
What
theater?
is
Yeah.
the theater?
Yeah, let's go into that.
Oh yeah. Let's talk a tiny bit about that before we finish up. So this building is attached to a theater that was built in 1927, commissioned by one of the founders of Universal Studios.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about.
Yeah, my grandfather and some other people got a hold of this building and have been trying to fund a restoration of it and in general clean it up and get it usable. And just last year, my family actually obtained sole ownership, so we've been able to sign all the permits to do stuff. Last year, we cleaned out 50 tons of debris from the auditorium, which has enough room for 2,400 seats, I believe.
Wow.
And it's always in need of more volunteers or any other material or fiscal help. I believe KenoshaTheater.org/donate is where you can give us money, or PayPal.me/Kenosha Theater with a TRE at the end. That one will definitely work. That'll be the most stable one.
There we
Just
go.
straight to PayPal.
Yeah,
Well,
it's a beautiful place. We
yeah.
want to get it
It's
beautiful
a
again.
magical place.
Yeah. Well, I have a video of me walking around the theater from a couple years ago on my YouTube. You guys can check that out. See the whole.
We'll link
Um,
everything.
Good.
We should get us set up and do something in the theater at some point, like when it's warmer.
Yeah,
That'd be
like
really
yeah, something maybe involving a guy named Kyle.
Oh boy.
Never mind. We're not going to go there. All right. Thank you. No. The case is like, why
I don't know who Kyle
All
is.
right.
That's good. Don't. Hey,
The
man,
viewers at home, you know who Kyle is.
Beauty.